Regine, I'm so glad to get you in here.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Hafa-day.
Hafa-day. It's been, you and I, we've known each other, socially and
Yes,
then
a long
professionally,
time.
and now it's just here you are, and it's amazing to see you in such an exciting role.
Thank you.
And it's really good because I really value your energy and the energy that you're bringing. I can already see it. So. Yeah, thanks and welcome to the show. And
I'm so honored to be here and to be able to chat with you about this fun stuff.
Yeah, but before we started, we were just kind of going off. So
bring it back.
Yeah, we're gonna save it. So let's take it to. I know your journey, right? But maybe not everybody does. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me about? You've served in so many leadership roles on Guam, and you've brought. A new kind of young energy to that, and you've always been kind of at the fork. You've been almost a voice for kind of a younger generation coming up through the ranks in professionally in Guam. Mm-hmm. And so, tell me about how that journey has shaped you and your vision for where you are now.
So I consider myself a daughter of Guam. I was born and raised here. I left to go to school. I went to the University of Washington in Seattle. Shout out to my Huskies, go Dogs. And then I lived and worked in the States for a few years. I lived in Las Vegas and in Washington, D.C., worked on the Hill for a little bit, and reconnected with one of my middle school classmates and hit it off. So shout out to my husband too. But decided to move back to Guam. And I always say that it's like the second best decision I've ever made. So moving back to Guam, kind of re-immersing myself in the community, doing work in both the public and private sector, and then got this crazy idea that maybe I should use my experience and what I've learned so far to try to make the island a better place as a senator. And so I served 2 terms in the Guam legislature. That was fun. It was a huge learning experience for me. And then went back into the private sector for a little bit, and now I'm right back in the public sector. So just kind of bouncing back and forth. But I think it gives me an interesting perspective. And then, just in answer to your question, I think the role that has kind of prepared me the most for this new job at the Guam Visitors Bureau has really been a consumer, because I was really kind of thinking about this the last few days, and thinking about how, I was a young college student, trying to be very frugal, didn't have a lot of money. So, my options for spring break destinations, I'm a free and independent traveler, and it was very, very budget conscious, right? So taking that experience, and then, now as a mother, when I travel typically with my family, things need to be family friendly. But also, 2-3 times a year, I'm traveling with our entire swim team. And so that's 25, student athletes, and then each of them are bringing a grandparent or a parent with them. So it's, total packs of like 60, 65 that we're traveling to. We were in Bangkok in February with this large group. So kind of thinking about that, and just the way that people are shifting the way that they book travel, the way that they think about destinations is completely different than it was even 5 years ago.
Yes.
So much of that, with the advent of the internet and all of these different social media channels where they can learn about new destinations, we really need to do a better job of marketing in that way to free and independent travelers. I'm not saying that groups and kind of the traditional travel agents aren't important. They absolutely are. But we also need to be thinking about this new, innovative, tech-focused kind of way that people, when you book travel, what do you do?
Yeah, generally it starts on social media, and then you read about experiences and things to do, and then it builds from there, right? And then
you ask
you
a
look to
friend
book your
who
flights.
may have, been there. I'm actually going to be traveling to Osaka this weekend. And so again, word of mouth, some friends of ours were just there, and they're like, oh, you got to go check out the expo. And so I get online, download the app, all of those kinds of things are, put into play.
So what do you think is our competitive edge, or what do you think the right mix is in terms of getting the demo that we want here in kind of a weird time.
It is a really weird time, but I think it's also like, full of opportunity for us to kind of reimagine not just the story that we tell others, but the story that we're telling ourselves. Like, what is the unique selling point for Guam? Yes, our beaches are beautiful. Yes, our air quality is incredible, right? When you're thinking about comparing it to some of our key source markets, right? But it's the history and the culture and the warmth of the Chamorro people, because you can, get beautiful beaches anywhere. Philippines, Vietnam, a lot of our competitors have a lot of those same things, but they don't have that Hafaday spirit. They don't have that warmth, literally and figuratively, right? So like right when you get off the plane, you're greeted by this, you know that you're in the island. You know that you can expect that level of hopefully great service, but just a connection to the people.
Sure, and that starts, like you say, from the time you get off the plane all the way through the time you're...
Yeah, and I would argue if we're doing a good job, it starts even before then, when they're searching for these destinations, and how we're able to attract folks online with really great content about Guam. And again, it's not just about our beaches. It's not just about great shopping or golf, but what is the experience that you're going to get when you come here?
Yes. And so what do you think that experience should be?
I think it should be top tier. I think it should be accessible to a lot of people. And again, we want to have that ease of travel and that really, really great experience for folks. It's going to be memorable. They're going to get back home to their country and just want to tell all of their friends and neighbors about what an incredible experience that they had in Guam, and something that you can't get anywhere else, from the food to the people to, I learned a little bit about Chamorro culture, and this is the way that it connects to our culture in Japan, or it connects to our culture as indigenous people in Taiwan. So there's all these different ways that we can connect with our source markets and the people that come to visit us more often, but we need to do a better job of kind of telling that story.
Right, but then we tell the story, but then how do we create the service? So where I'm getting at is, you can promise all these things, but how do we get the market to bring the experience and to back that experience up with the current conditions, right? If I'm in a service industry job, I have a service industry business, or a business based around the visitor industry, you speak to experience, and so experience means I have a good base of talent and labor,
right,
that is consistent over time,
right?
And so we have economic challenges that prevent you from keeping a sustainable talent base that you need. Right. So I guess the larger question is, how do you provide infrastructure for small businesses to bring the services that you need to the market and keep the talent they need to maintain that level of service that you need?
Well, that's a big question, Ryan Mummert. But I think, kind of going back to a previous role as a legislator, right, and really trying to think about it in terms of policy, you're absolutely right. We need to focus. The two main things I would say is our land and our people, right, and really investing in developing that workforce and making sure that we have that training and that retention to keep people, our great people here. To continue to do that work. And we're also seeing, again, a huge opportunity right now with the military buildup and military construction kind of plateauing and starting to wind down in the next few years. We're going to need a place to recapture some of that labor and make sure that our people have a place to go after all of that is over.
Absolutely.
And so it needs to be tourism. I mean, well, one of the opportunities I think is tourism, and then there are other industries that they could look into. But we already have so much invested, in Tumon, in Hagåtña, as a place for. Our slogan at the Visitors Bureau is making Guam the best place to live, work, and visit. So really focusing on that living and working space, making what's good for our residents. And a happy place to live and work is going to be a great place for people that people are going to want to visit and experience, what's going on there. They seem like they're having a great time. People are, there's beautiful parks. There's a lot of pride that's put into the island. So I'm not saying that we're there. It's certainly a long way to go. But if we continue to kind of evangelize and like see ourselves in this light, it's inevitable. It will happen.
No, that's exactly, if we are as a community are
Committed
thriving
to that. Yeah.
and valuing the investment and valuing the contributions that the visitors are bringing, and it's this ecosystem, yes, absolutely that works. But we have like you said, there's so many problems to solve to get to that place, and that's kind of the conversation that we're having, right? So that's great.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that kind of prepared me for this role is right before I started, I was involved in a project with the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, BSP. And we were doing a tourism repositioning study. And so, several phases of that, we talked to about 60 different stakeholders over a 2-year period and really interviewed them. I'm talking everybody from, your typical industry, hotelier, restaurant folks, people who are involved in kind of the tourism business, but also people who ought to be more involved. So our cultural practitioners, our local small business owners, people who are involved on the government side and really their challenges in bringing that infrastructure up to par. And so it's a really good time to be able to take some of that feedback that we received, some qualitative and quant research that has been done, and really put it into an action plan to help us go forward.
Right, because the stories of those people are the stories that we can sell, and those are the stories that matter.
100%, yeah.